Stephanie Miller.
I'm a professional black woman.
You're not just a black woman, you do it professionally.
I sure do.
All right.
Stephanie Miller, tonight at 7 on KFI AM640. More stimulating talk radio.
KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio. The John and Ken Show, 646.
Southern California weather from KFI. The rain becomes heavy at times after midnight, low in the 50s, and rain heavy at times turning to showers in the afternoon, high in the upper 50s. It's 57 degrees at KFI.
All right, discussing Governor Wilson's speech. Specifically, we've been talking about he wants to get rid of teacher tenure. God, this is so long overdue. This is so long overdue. It would have the dramatic effect of forcing teachers to compete, to excel on their jobs, knowing that their performance and their students' performance would have a direct effect on whether they made a living or not. Can you imagine that? That what they did in the class would have an effect on whether they got paid. What a revolutionary idea. Brett in Westlake, car phone, you're on KFI.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Fine.
Loyal member of the mob.
Welcome, sir.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. One comment about tenure, though. My mother was a school teacher, elementary school teacher for 30 years. I've got kids in school. I've done a lot of volunteer work in schools, and so I've seen a lot of this. I've grown up with it. One of the reasons for tenure is to prevent school principals and administrators from getting rid of older, experienced teachers who've worked their way up the pay scale in favor of younger, inexperienced teachers who cost them a lot less. I've seen a lot of both women and men who have been school teachers for 10, 15 years, who've worked their way up to the top of the pay scale and have tenure, who have been repeatedly either forced out or an attempt has been made to force them out.
I'm thinking there's a lot of corporate middle managers who would have loved that same protection in the last 5, 10 years.
I agree with you, but remember the show you did on school principals last week?
Yes.
They're wusses. These are weak people. They are administrators. Most of them have had an unsuccessful teaching career. They're political, and they want to save money. They don't have the competence. The principals do not have the competence to decide who is a good teacher in their own school. So I agree with the comments that were made by the last caller and by you and Ken that reform needs to come at both ends.
Understand that I don't want to give all the power to the administrators because I have less respect and more contempt for them than I do the teachers.
Yeah. Well, remember, the only person that the teacher hates most than the stupid parent or the bad kid is the stupid principal.
All right,
Brett, thanks for calling KFI.
Let's go to Annie in Rialto, first time KFI.
Yes, I think a lot of things need to be changed with the education system. I think there'd be a lot more competent teachers if they would throw away the book on how they determine whether you can be a teacher in the state of California.
You know what it's going to be like? Well, because tenure to me is like communism. And once communism was removed in Eastern Europe, for a couple of years, the Polish and the Czechoslovakians and were just stumbling around. They didn't know what to do. But they got the hang of it. They figured out that you got to compete, and that the better you do, the more money you make. And now, some of the economies in Eastern Europe are cooking. Not everybody is wealthy there, by no means, but they got the idea. And I think this would be such a I don't want to use a cliche like a fresh breeze. It would be a gale. It would be a hurricane that would blow through the hallways of these schools, that the teachers would have to perform and make their kids perform in order to get paid and to make more money and get promotions and whatever. And after a couple of years, you know, some of the dead wood and the driftwood would be blown away, but what would be left would be teachers who understand what the capitalistic system is about. And that capitalism means that you have to be inspired to produce, because if you don't, you die in the street. And that would be so powerful. It would be such a revolutionary idea for the school systems.
Excuse me, but can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why do you bother to have people call in if you don't want to hear their opinion?
Well, I do.
Okay, well, then let me tell you what is happening to a lot of the teachers that come in here.
That was rude.
So were you.
No, I wasn't yelling at you. I was having a discussion with you.
No, you were talking on the radio. You weren't discussing.
No, I was having a discussion with you, Annie.
Well, you took her point and you went off into a 2-minute soliloquy, and I guess she got a little annoyed by that.
Well, I'm sorry, Annie, if you didn't like it. I think I made a real good point, don't you?
Well,
What was
except that
wrong
the
with what I said, Annie?
Except the people in Russia, some of them who wanted independence, are now getting bombed. Is that okay?
I didn't say Russia. I
Okay.
said Poland and Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
Do you think there's something wrong with teachers competing?
No, but I think that we should have a more even, what they call politically correct playing field. For example, I know of several teachers who were recruited by outside the state of California. They were told, oh yeah, we really need you. We really need bilingual teachers. They come out here, and after they get out here, the state of California says, oh, but we don't recognize the school that you graduated from. Therefore, you're going to have to go back to school and redo your student teaching and requalify through the California system.
What's this got to do with tenure?
Because you can't even get into the system because of the tenure. There's so many tenured teachers that you can't get into the school system.
So you and I agree on this?
Yes.
Oh, well, Annie, we're friends then. Thanks for the call.
She just wanted a little more time to speak.
I was going to give her plenty of time. But it's my show, and I get to speak when I want.
It was just like you're all fired up. You went for a good minute or so. At the end, you're expecting the usual accolades and applause. And she goes,
I didn't expect...
why do you have people bother to call if you're going to talk all the time?
I didn't expect accolades and applause if she disagreed with me.
The mob goes, yeah, right on.
But I'm not talking to them. But you have a fantasy idea.
Oh,
I just want to...
funny.
I just want to hear what she had to say. Chuck in Running Springs, you're on KFI.
Hi, John and Ken.
Yes.
Guys, number one, huh?
Yes.
Hey, you guys are pretty entertaining if you're bored in the afternoon.
Thanks for that low-key endorsement.
Right.
Don't get too worked up.
I'm not trying to.
So what do you got to say?
Well, I got to say the one thing about teacher for 10 years is the fact that that is really the last element in the profession that is left professional. When we're talking about tenure for teachers, we're talking about being dismissed from your chosen profession, which you go to college for several years, 5 years minimum to get at. And if we're talking about dismissal, you would expect to be dismissed through a process or due process and just cause. And what tenure provides the education or the teachers in the establishment is it provides due process and just cause for dismissal.
Oh, stop. Oh, due process. They have due process that takes 52 years to get rid of a teacher. That due process line I'm sick of hearing. It's a smokescreen. Due process is obstructionism. Due process is getting in the way of clearing out the bad teachers. And then every time somebody wants to get rid of a bad teacher, oh, no, we have to have due process. Screw due process. Why don't you live like the rest of the people in the world? Do you think people who were cut out of the aerospace industry got their due process? No. They were given a pink slip and told to leave in an hour. The security guard would drag them away. That was their due process. Live like the rest of us do, you wimps.
That's right. And as far as most people being arrested, most of them are guilty. Forget due process. Go to jail.
That's not what I'm talking about. It's the due process routine when you get fired in a school. Give me a break.
Well, you could streamline the due process if you have a big problem with that. It doesn't have to take 52 years.
Who's got due process? My dad didn't have due process at the factory. They told him, hey, we're out of orders. It's closed. See ya.
But that's just the thing. The thing I object to with your whole idea about merit achievement and getting rid of due process and tenure is that teaching kids is not like producing widgets like your dad did on the line. It's a little harder to judge. It's a little harder to figure out. Kids come to school with their own unique set of problems.
It's harder.
They aren't that easily molded into a perfect product.
But it's harder, but it is doable. You can evaluate how well teachers do in a school. And I think the perfect example is all the kids who are failing the math and English exams when they go to Cal State. That's a perfect example that those math and English teachers in those schools where the kids were deficient. Because those teachers gave out A's and B's and didn't get a performance in return that was worthy of the A's and B's.
Remember, the kids are just now genetically dumb and there's nothing we can do with it.
Then how did they get A's and B's?
Who?
These kids. These kids that failed the tests at Cal State.
They got A's and B's because the teachers just want to move them through.
Well, then that's ineffective, incompetent teaching.
So we could keep them here and leave them back but it would take 9 years to get one grade done.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take more calls coming up on Wilson's State of the State speech, and we've been talking about his idea to abolish tenure. John and Ken on KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
If you're driving a car right now, you're burning about
72 for AIS.
Keep your lights on, America. Tom Snyder is coming to CBS. Late nights.
To follow David Letterman, it's great good fortune.
With Tom's special brand of conversation.
Talk television, interactive television, where people can call up and tell you you're full of crap if you are, or tell you you're doing a good job if you are.
For a late night state of mind.
We're kind of like a little all-night diner on the information superhighway.
Join Tom with Candace Bergen and Newt Gingrich's parents tonight after Dave on Channel 2.
Tomorrow morning you can listen to this. Or you can listen to The Jew at number 2.
Bill Handel, tomorrow morning at 5 on KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
KFI AM640, 658. John and Ken. Final round of calls here.
Yeah, we're talking about Governor Wilson's State of the State speech.
We got a good debate going here because he wants to get rid of teacher tenure. Let's go to Jess in Huntington Beach. You're on KFI.
Yeah, John, specifically to you, I want to address this. First of all, you're blaming all the student problems on the teachers, and I don't think that's fair.
I'm not.
Well, you sound like you are. But it's one of the few incentives left for teachers, good people, to come into that profession. They don't make a lot of money. They're not like you big talk show hosts or governors. It's one of the good incentives to get good people in there and teach students.
But, Jess, in theory, what if John and I were told tomorrow we have tenure and it's going to be very difficult and impossible to fire us? You think our show would be as good 2 years from now?
I don't think you'd be doing your show if you were making as much money as teachers were, first of all.
Well, first of all, that's not true, because for the first 8 years in radio, I made less than the average teacher gets in the L.A. school district, and I worked like hell so I could get to Los Angeles. Because I want
to hand out tenures. You know that, right?
What?
They don't just hand them out to anybody. It takes years of proving yourself.
3.
At least 3.
3 years.
At least 3. That's a minimum. And it takes at least that. And they're not
you're
just
20.
They only hand them out to good teachers.
So you're 20. Yeah, but you're a good teacher at 25. How does that guarantee you're a good teacher at 55? It doesn't.
Well, that's not the point.
That is exactly the point.
Why?
Because it may explain a lot of the problems in the schools.
You think they get lethargic because they're tenured?
Well, it's been John's experience and to my experience, too, actually, Jess. I have seen a lot of tenured teachers who are damn lazy.
It is the reason
that's
that no one is signed. It's not
all of them.
That no one is signed to a lifetime contract in any other industry. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a very good incentive to get teachers in there, good quality people. They don't make a lot of money. It's not this great profession. It's not. There's no fame in it. There is no big payoff as far as a professional. As far as money.
Teachers are paid pretty well compared to a lot of jobs. The average teacher salary in L.A. is higher than the average median household salary in the United States.
Well, but it's an important job, and I wish it could be paid more for the best teachers. The problem is after, though, you're a teacher for so long, and then you also realize, I'm not getting paid much to do this. What the hell am I doing? Why am I bothering? It's easy to get lazy, but some do.
We also can pay teachers more money. The better ones get more money. The bad ones get less.
All right, we have to go, and as this tenure thing moves along, if Wilson actually carries out on his wishes there from his speech, will be following, we'll be talking about it more.
All right, Stephanie Miller's next. We'll see you tomorrow at 3, 7 o'clock. KFI Los Angeles, more stimulating talk radio.
Think of KFI as the new talk station. KFI Los Angeles, more stimulating talk radio.
California taxes will be death to California jobs unless we lower them.
Governor Wilson's talking about cutting your taxes. Good evening. I'm Terry Rayomo with the 7 o'clock news on KFI. He says those tax cuts should start next year. We'll tell you more after we check your traffic. Here's Megan Reyes in the KFI Traffic Center.
Well, thank you, Terry.